This New York City heiress, trying to live like a commoner, was so captivated by the dozens of dirty jokes I told her every day that she couldn't think straight. Then, on one dark and windy night, she finally lost her patience and dragged me into a nearby grove of trees. After we moved in together, the heiress truly let herself go. She wanted it a dozen times a day, to the point where my back was killing me. But as a man, I had to start thinking about our future. After all, her current persona was broke as a joke, but her energy could kill a man. She wore me out so much I had to brace my back just to walk. I had to work my ass off, picking up side hustles because every time I brought up marriage, she'd get this incredibly troubled look on her face. I figured that after falling for me, she'd had an epiphany, that having money was truly living while being broke was just surviving. But the truth always arrives suddenly and cruelly. In the private suite of a 5-star hotel, a single-dish Chloe Vanderbilt casually ordered cost more than my sales commissions for 6 months. A bottle of wine she scoffed at was worth more than all the money I'd saved up for our wedding. It turned out that lavish spending and a life of gilded luxury were the real Chloe. Her initial act of being unworldly wasn't an act at all. She genuinely had never been exposed to the life of an ordinary person. When people discussed how exceptional her family's choice for an arranged marriage was, she was so confident, so captivating, so commanding. And I, standing just outside the door while tagging along with my boss for a networking event, couldn't find an ounce of courage to storm in and call her out. Right? A multi-billionaire heiress had lowered herself to play house with a poor guy like me for 7 years. Who was I to hate her for it? I was never in her league to begin with. Now that her life was returning to its proper course, I should just be grateful and walk away. It was just that the wind on the way home was so strong, it stung my eyes until tears streamed down my face. When Chloe came back to our small apartment, smelling of expensive champagne, she found me packing my things. Chloe pressed up against my back. "Ethan, what are you doing?" Feeling the warmth of her body, I said flatly, "The apartment's a mess. I just wanted to clean up a bit." She didn't seem to suspect anything, placing a gentle kiss on my cheek. "A friend of mine just opened a new photography studio. You're always talking about getting married, right? They're having a soft opening. Want to go take some wedding photos?" Hearing the words wedding photos, I managed to smile, but my eyes were cold. "You don't even want to get married, so why would we take wedding photos?" Chloe paused for a second before replying, "You don't have to be getting married to take them." Hearing her answer, I turned my head to hide the tears welling in my eyes, forcing myself to sound calm. "If it's cheap, then sure, let's go. Don't worry about the money," she said. "I'll send you the address. The day after tomorrow, 1 o'clock. With that, she went to take a shower. I had no intention of making a scene or demanding anything from Chloe. I just wanted to spend one last Christmas with her, to put a seemingly perfect end to our 7 years together, and then we could go our separate ways. 2 days later, I arrived at the photography studio right on time. An employee led me to a changing room in the back. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a push notification from a celebrity news site. Piano virtuoso Julian Sterling spotted at bridal shop. Is a wedding with his fiancée imminent? I tapped the link. The photos showed Julian entering a couture bridal boutique directly across the street from where I was. The shops were different, but the price tags were in completely different universes. In a paparazzi telephoto shot, I saw a figure whose face was blurred out. I couldn't see her clearly, but I recognized the color combination of her outfit. It was Chloe. She was wearing the exact clothes I had picked out for her that morning. Before I could close the article, a message from Chloe popped up on my screen. "Ethan, my boss just called an emergency meeting. I might be a little late. Can you wait for me?" I glanced through the large window at the boutique across the street and typed back, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Go ahead and handle your work. I'm in no rush." I waited for 5 hours. I didn't text her once to hurry up, I just sat there quietly. When my 6 o'clock alarm went off, I looked over at the sleepy photographer and asked with a polite smile, "Excuse me, is it possible to just take the photos of me, by myself?" The photographer nodded with a look of pity. After the shoot was over, I picked out a few photos I liked for a small album. It was 8 o'clock at night when I finally walked out, and the lights in the boutique across the street were still blazing. I hailed a cab to go back to the apartment. At 8:03 p.m., Chloe slipped out of the designer wedding gown and changed back into her simple down jacket. Julian Sterling glanced at her outfit, his brow furrowed in distaste. "Chloe, darling, what has happened to your sense of style? That jacket looks so cheap. Take it off and try on the new dress I bought for you." "That's okay," Chloe said, pulling the zipper up to her chin, a flicker of anxiety in her eyes. Julian, unable to persuade her, grew annoyed. "Chloe, you used to insist on custom tailoring for even a simple blouse. Did you just give up on yourself the moment I was gone?" Chloe glanced down at her watch, biting her lip as she gave him a distracted reply. "I'm just used to this jacket. It's not about style. Now that the photos are done, I'll have my driver take you home." Julian noticed she kept staring out the window, her demeanor toward him cool and distant. He stepped closer and took her hand, his voice low. "Chloe, you know I'm a perfectionist. For something as important as our wedding, I want everything to be flawless. I know we've been here since noon. Please don't be upset. Let me take you to dinner? I found this amazing new restaurant the other day." Faced with his invitation, Chloe hesitated. She had been in love with him for years, and had once done anything just to make him smile. Now, Julian had finally come back to get engaged to her, but she didn't feel the joy she had always expected. Meeting Julian's expectant gaze, Chloe finally declined. Maybe another time. I have something else to do tonight. Julian, don't read too much into this. I promised your parents I would marry you, and that means you're the only man I'll ever have as my husband. With that, she pulled her hand away from his and walked out the door. A bitter wind swept through the shopping district, where stores were already closing down, signs announcing their Christmas holiday hours taped to the windows. Without a moment's hesitation, Chloe crossed the street and walked into the other photography studio. Meanwhile, Julian stood by the window watching her go. He gritted his teeth in frustration and pulled out his phone, dialing Chloe's best friend. I thought you said she was just toying with that guy. We're about to get engaged, so why hasn't she dumped him yet? Her friend tried to soothe him. Julian, you were gone for 7 years. Chloe couldn't just follow you around the world, so she found a stand-in who looked like you to pass the time. But a stand-in is just a stand-in. He could never compare to you. Don't worry, you're the only one she truly loves. He understood the logic, of course. The guy was just a placeholder, a nobody. Chloe hadn't even told him who she really was, which made it obvious she planned for an easy exit. But to be ditched for a placeholder? Had she actually developed real feelings for him? As soon as I got back to the apartment, I submitted my letter of resignation. My boss, Sarah, tried to talk me out of it. I was one of her top performers, a natural at sales who brought in a lot of revenue. But I told her I was done with this line of work for good. I'd only gotten into sales to make enough money to buy a house and marry Chloe. I'd been working quietly, saving every penny. I even managed to put a down payment on a 3-bedroom place on the south side, putting it in Chloe's name so her parents might have one less reason to object to us. It was supposed to be a surprise for her. Now, the whole idea just seemed pathetic. Sarah tried a different tactic. Ethan, I can help you apply for the company's housing allowance. Are you and your girlfriend getting married? You know our benefits are great. You'll get paid time off for the wedding, paternity leave, the works. Sarah, I'm not getting married anymore. She looked stunned. But you and Chloe seem so happy. I really thought you two were going to make it. I cut her off, deciding to just tell her the truth. I'm planning to move abroad to be with my adoptive father. I'm going back to school for fashion design. The words were barely out of my mouth when the front door opened and Chloe walked in. She saw me on the couch, on the phone, and let out a huge sigh of relief. I hung up with Sarah. My laptop screen showed that my resignation had been approved. I calmly closed it. Chloe came over and curled up against me like a kitten wanting to be petted, burying her face in my chest. Her voice was laced with guilt. Ethan, you must have waited forever this afternoon. My boss just kept dragging out this business meeting, and suddenly it was dark. I rushed over to the studio as soon as I could, but they said you'd already gone. I took a shallow breath, a fog of unshed tears blurring my vision. She was wearing a man's cologne, a green tea scent I'd always hated. I fought to keep my voice even. I didn't wait that long. Something urgent came up with work, so I just came back here to finish it. Then why didn't you answer my texts? I thought you were mad at me. I glanced at my phone and saw several missed calls and messages from her. I've been too busy packing to notice. I was busy. Didn't see them. She took my cold hand and pressed it against her chest to warm it up, her eyes filled with what looked like adoration. Ethan, do you have any idea how worried I was when I couldn't reach you? Please don't ever scare me like that again. If you ever disappeared, I think I'd die. I'm sure she expected me to comfort her like I always did, but this time I just stared at her. Chloe, do you remember what I told you a long time ago? I said if you ever stopped loving me, don't lie about it. We could just break up peacefully. But I also said that if I ever found out you deceived me, I would leave and never, ever look back. Do you remember that? Her heart seemed to skip a beat. She looked flustered. Ethan, why are you bringing that up all of a sudden? I kept my voice casual. No reason. It just popped into my head. She squeezed my hand even tighter. Ethan, don't worry. I've always loved you. I would never lie to you. She said it without batting an eye, and the last flicker of hope inside me died. Even though I already knew the truth, thinking back on our 7 years together made my chest ache with 1,000 tiny needles. Chloe offered to cook dinner to cheer me up, but just as she tied on her apron, her phone rang. I sat on the couch and heard her murmur a few quick affirmations. Then she took off the apron, walked over to me, her eyes full of apology. Ethan, my boss needs me to come back and work late. I'm so sorry. I can't have dinner with you tonight. It's fine, I said. Work is important. She was out the door before I could say another word. The moment she was gone, I opened Julian Sterling's Twitter. He had just posted a picture of himself in a hospital bed with an 4 in his arm. The caption read, "So stupid. Tried to cook a special dinner for someone and gave myself food poisoning instead." The comments were a flood of sympathy. One of them was from Chloe's best friend, who tagged Chloe directly, writing, "You should take better care of your fiancé." Chloe had replied to that comment. On my way now. I shut off my phone and went to the kitchen to make a bowl of ramen. As I sat at the small wooden table we had built together, my mind flooded with memories of our life here. We rented this place right after college. Back then, Chloe would wake up at the crack of dawn to go to the farmer's market for the freshest, cheapest vegetables to cook for me. I couldn't stand seeing her go without, so I cut back on my own spending. I swallowed my pride and begged everyone I knew to download delivery apps just so I could get us some coupons. If she mentioned liking something, I'd eat nothing but ramen for a month to save up enough money to buy it for her. Looking back now, the idea of a multi-billionaire heiress and her friends downloading apps just to save me a few dollars is absurd. They must have been laughing at me behind my back the whole time. But then I close my eyes, and the memories come flooding back, and I have to admit, for 7 years, Chloe was also genuinely good to me. I remember having a high fever during a downpour, unable to get a cab. Chloe put our only raincoat on me and walked me all the way to the clinic, getting completely drenched herself. I once mentioned I liked the pastries from a bakery on the south side, and after that, whenever she got off work early, she would bike all the way there just to get some for me. She used to celebrate every anniversary with me, no matter how busy she was. Every day she'd come home from work, hug me, and tell me about her day. Thinking about it now, her performance was so flawless it almost feels like she wasn't even trying to hide the truth from me at all. I went into the bedroom and opened a drawer. Inside were a dozen diamond-encrusted watches I'd always assumed were cheap knockoffs she bought online. Out of curiosity, I scanned one with my phone. It was worth over $1 million. They all were. That explained why clients always stared whenever I wore one of them. The designer briefcase she gave me, the one I treated like a knockoff, my coworkers never believed it was fake. They were convinced I was some secret trust fund kid and kept pestering me for a link to the store. Even the little trinkets and decorations that kept appearing around our apartment were worth more than our $2,000 a month rent. I made an appointment with a luxury consignment shop. I was going to sell it all. My adoptive father, Mr. Davis, had been sending me money for years, but I never touched the account. The truth is, I grew up wealthy. My adoptive parents raised me like a prince, wanting to give me the very best of everything in New York. But when I was 5 years old, my biological parents showed up on their doorstep with their biological son, and I learned I had been switched at birth. Mr. Davis wanted to raise both of us, but my biological parents, the Millers, insisted I return to them. He couldn't argue, so he had to send me back to their small town in rural Illinois. In my new home, everything went to my younger brother, Kyle. I was the forgotten one. After I graduated from college, my parents constantly hounded me for money. They even tried to get me to move back home and marry a local girl who had dropped out of high school, simply because her family wasn't asking for money and she could start having kids right away. My parents complained endlessly. A city girl will cost a fortune, even a cheap one. It's better to marry someone from around here. We know her family, it costs less, and your father and I can save the rest to find a good wife for your brother. For the first time in my life, I refused to do what they said. Because of Chloe, I hadn't been home for Christmas in 4 years. This year, I told them I was finally coming, and that I wanted to bring Chloe with me to talk about getting married. Chloe had always made excuses to avoid visiting my family, but this time, she was the one who suggested we go for Christmas. I thought she had finally decided she was ready to build a life with me, but behind my back, she was planning her escape. Even though I knew the truth, I decided to stick to my plan. The days passed, and before I knew it, it was Christmas Eve. Chloe was up early, taking gifts down to the car. When I followed her out, wearing my winter coat, I immediately saw the Maserati parked in front of our building. The car was so flashy and conspicuous that it drew a crowd, and my neighbors swarmed me the second I stepped outside. "Ethan, did you and Chloe hit the lottery?" one of them asked. "My son says a car like this costs a fortune. How could you afford it?" I suddenly remembered Chloe mentioning she wanted to rent a car for the trip. I forced an awkward smile. "It's a rental, just a rental. How much does it cost to rent? A car like that must be over $1,000 a day." Chloe closed the trunk and came to my rescue. "It's not a rental. One of my clients had a spare car and was kind enough to lend it to us for the holidays." She linked her arm through mine in front of everyone, guided me to the passenger seat, and got behind the wheel. As I buckled my seatbelt, she started to apologize. "Ethan, I did go to the rental place yesterday, but all the cars in our price range were so basic." Then I remembered a client of mine had a spare car they weren't using. "It's fine, as long as it runs," I said, cutting her off, trying to keep my voice steady. Chloe gripped the steering wheel, her heart pounding. She'd asked her butler to send over the cheapest car she owned, never imagining that her cheapest car was a 7-figure vehicle. Desperate to change the subject before she slipped up, she asked me to connect my phone to the Bluetooth and play some music. I opened the Bluetooth settings on my phone. In the list of previously connected devices, one name stood out: Chloe's Prince Julian. Julian. Just thinking his name felt like 1,000 needles pricking my skin, making my movements slow and heavy. Chloe didn't notice the look on my face. A chime indicated the phone was connected, and I quickly hit play on a random song. The melody filled the car, a sad, familiar tune. "And so I learned how to love you, but you were already gone, lost inside the crowd. And so I learned through all my tears that some people, once you let them go, are gone for good." I stared out the window at the passing scenery as a tear escaped and rolled down my cheek. For Chloe and me, there would be no later. 5 hours later, our arrival in the small town caused an immediate stir. The locals stopped what they were doing and followed the Maserati all the way to the Miller's modest house. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, heard the commotion. When they saw Chloe step out of the car carrying bags filled with expensive gifts, their eyes lit up with greed. Even my lazy brother, Kyle, was roused from his bed, rushing to the door to greet her. I watched as my family eagerly accepted her gifts, along with the thick envelopes of cash she'd prepared. Their attitudes changed in an instant, and they ushered Chloe inside, all smiles, as if they'd never said a bad word about her. I trailed behind them, used to being an afterthought. They ordered me to start making Christmas dinner. As I got up to go to the kitchen, Chloe stopped me. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, Ethan's been up since dawn getting everything ready. He must be exhausted. Why don't we all go out to eat instead? My mother just laughed. What's he got to be tired for? He's a man. You did all the driving. Our Ethan's always been tough. Making one meal is the least he can do. My father chimed in. Eating out is too expensive. Besides, he's lucky to have a girl like you. He should be doing everything he can to please you. Don't spoil him. My own brother, Kyle, rolled his eyes at me. You're so damn lucky to have a girlfriend like her. Chloe corrected him. Actually, Ethan's been the one supporting me all these years. My family didn't believe her. My mother shot me a dirty look. I raised him. I know what he's capable of. He makes peanuts. There's no way he could save a dime. Hey, don't say such things in front of our future daughter-in-law, my father hissed, cutting her off. Kyle piped up again. Seriously, what do you see in him? You're gorgeous and he's so plain and boring. I honestly thought he'd die alone. Chloe looked shocked, hearing them put me down so casually. Wasn't he their son? How could a family talk about one of their own like that? I didn't say a word. I used to talk back when I was a kid, but after enough beatings, I learned to keep my mouth shut. For years, I've endured their insults and pressure, saving every penny I could, just dreaming of the day I could finally get away from them. Chloe was the final straw that broke me, but it's okay. I have a new plan now. It's time to learn how to let go of the past. I motioned for Chloe to stay and talk with my parents while I headed to the kitchen. As I cooked, I could overhear my parents trying to bring up wedding expenses, but Chloe was clever, always finding a way to change the subject without being obvious. I tried to focus on my cooking. This would be the last Christmas dinner I ever ate in this house. The money I'd sent them over the years was more than enough to repay them for raising me. I was going to leave this place with nothing and start over. When I brought the food out from the kitchen, my parents and brother were fawning over the gifts Chloe had brought, praising her for being so thoughtful and generous. What they didn't know was that she'd supposedly won all of it in a raffle. Chloe and I had just gone to the store to pick up some groceries for the holiday when a store employee stopped us for a customer appreciation raffle. We drew 5 times. The first prize was $5,000 in cash. The second was a solid gold bracelet. After that came a luxury gift basket, a rare bottle of aged whiskey, and a brand new PlayStation. As we claimed our prizes, Chloe squeezed my hand, her voice full of excitement. Ethan, you're my good luck charm. Now we don't have to spend money on gifts, and I can use my salary and Christmas bonus to buy you all new clothes. Her so-called job, with its $4,000 a month salary and pathetic commissions, wouldn't have covered the sales tax on these gifts. But the thing is, before I met Chloe, I had the worst luck in the world. I was the kind of guy who'd trip on a flat surface. Every raffle I ever entered was a bust. But after I met Chloe, my luck changed overnight. I started winning online giveaways for things I desperately needed. We'd win free meals at restaurants. I was the grand prize winner at my company's holiday party every single year. I used to think I just had a run of good luck. Now I knew it had all been rigged. After dinner, Kyle grabbed Chloe's arm. Hey, I bought some fireworks. Let's go set them off at the edge of town. Bring your brother along, Chloe said, not leaving me to do the dishes this time. In just a few hours, she had completely charmed my parents. They quickly untied my apron and pushed me out the door, whispering, "You take good care of her, you hear? Don't let a girl like that get away." I just smiled. Chloe took my hand as we walked down the bumpy dirt road. We both looked up at the same starry sky. Her cheeks were flushed, maybe from the wine, and the affection in her eyes was palpable. She stood on her toes, planting soft, sweet kisses on my cheek, whispering how much she liked me. As we neared the edge of town, Kyle offered us his dirt bike. He pointed to a small hill in the distance. "The view is best from the top of that hill. You two go on ahead." The city had designated spots for fireworks, but Chloe never liked crowds. In all our years together, we'd never done this. I never imagined our first and last time setting off fireworks together would be right before we broke up. We had just started up the hill when Chloe's phone began to ring. She ignored it at first, but the caller was persistent. With a sigh, she finally answered. In the moonlight, I saw her expression change instantly. She lowered her voice. "What are you doing here?" After a 30-second pause, she spoke into the phone, right in front of me. "Stay right where you are. I'm coming to get you." Before I could even ask what was going on, she was already moving. "Ethan, why don't you head back to the house? I have to run an errand at the edge of town. I might be late. We can do the fireworks tomorrow." I looked back at the steep, dark path we'd just come up. I was about to remind her it was a good 5-mile walk back to town, but she had already jumped on the dirt bike and sped off, leaving me alone with a gust of cold wind that tore my last shred of hope to pieces. I stood there in the freezing wind for half an hour. Every breath I took felt like a shard of ice piercing my heart. I started walking back, trying to follow the path from memory, but in the dark, I lost my footing and tumbled into a frozen field. As I struggled to my feet, brushing snow off my clothes, I heard a cheerful voice in the distance. "Chloe, this is just like when you used to sneak me out for rides on your dirt bike as kids. I can't believe we're doing it again." I scrambled back onto the path just as the dirt bike sped past me. I saw Julian, riding on the back, lean forward and kiss Chloe on the cheek. I opened my mouth to call her name, but my voice was drowned out by Julian's triumphant shout. "Chloe Vanderbilt, I love you." Over the roar of the wind, I thought I heard her sweet, shy reply. "Me too." I watched them disappear into the darkness, then raised a hand to wipe the frozen tears from my face. My heart felt like it was on fire. Tomorrow, Chloe would find out that our fireworks would never happen. I didn't look back, I just kept walking. But just as the lights of the town came into view, I heard the crackle and pop of fireworks exploding behind me. I looked up at the bursts of color lighting up the night sky and made a silent wish. In the new year, I will stop loving Chloe Vanderbilt. Then I turned and boarded the last bus heading back to the city. I leaned against the bus window and scrolled through Julian's Twitter feed. He just posted a new update. "So happy to spend the countdown with you this year. Thanks to my princess for the most beautiful fireworks show ever." The photo was a selfie of Julian, but my eyes immediately found the shadow in the corner of the frame. It was Chloe, her head down, but I'd recognize her anywhere. But it didn't matter anymore. I watched the clock on my phone tick over to midnight. Holiday wishes from old coworkers started rolling in, but the one person I had pinned to the top of my contacts remained silent. I unpinned her contact and blocked her number. At that exact moment, 2 new texts came through. The first was an airline alert. "Your flight to Los Angeles is scheduled for departure in less than 8 hours. Please proceed to the airport." The second was from my adoptive father. "Dearest son, your luggage arrived safely. I put it in your room. Your brother Alex and I are waiting for you. We'll celebrate Christmas together here in America." I replied to the second message, telling Mr. Davis I was fine and would be at the airport on time. As soon as the message sent, I popped the SIM card out of my phone and tossed it out the bus window. At that very moment, Chloe was sitting on the hilltop, staring at the field of spent fireworks. The smile on her face felt stiff. She had tried to act casual the whole time, but her palms were still sweating. She stared at the single bar of reception on her phone. The holiday text she'd been trying to send for the last 10 minutes still hadn't gone through. Her mood soured, and a strange feeling of anxiety crept over her. Julian, standing nearby, saw her impatient expression and discreetly touched the signal jammer in his pocket. He tossed his lighter to the ground and was about to approach her when she stood up. Her voice was cold. "Have you had your fun? If you're done, you should go. I've already called a car for you." Julian stared at her in disbelief. "You're sending me away?" He hadn't come all this way just to set off a few fireworks for a photo op. Chloe's expression hardened. "Julian, this town isn't exactly clean. There are no 5-star hotels here. You know how sensitive your allergies are. It's better if you go back." He knew she wasn't concerned about him. She just found him inconvenient. What was so special about that other guy that she kept pushing back their engagement? Julian closed the distance between them in a single stride, tilted her chin up, and pressed his lips to hers. He tried to deepen the kiss, but she shoved him away. "Julian, what are you doing?" Her face was a mask of shock as she raised a hand to wipe her mouth. Julian's expression soured. "Chloe, I'm your fiancé. It's my right to kiss you. Why are you acting so disgusted?" His words snapped her back to reality, and she realized with a jolt that she had felt a flash of genuine revulsion. Suddenly, she felt lost. She and Julian had grown up together, the perfect couple in their parents' eyes. She'd always assumed they would get married, right up until he left to study piano in Europe, leaving her behind to help run her family's empire. The distance and their demanding schedules drove them apart. Soon after, Julian had been the one to suggest a break. "Chloe, I need to focus on my career right now. Let's not talk for a couple of years. If you get lonely, just find some placeholder to keep you company." And she had done just that. She just never expected that she would be the one being taken care of. Looking up into Julian's demanding eyes, she realized her heart no longer fluttered for him. She didn't know when it had happened, but her love had transferred to someone else. Now, when she closed her eyes, all she saw was Ethan's smile. A terrifying thought bubbled up from deep inside her. She wanted to marry me. Seeing her silence, Julian lost his composure. He grabbed her wrist. "Chloe, didn't you promise my parents you would marry me? That you would be my wife? What is this?" At the mention of his parents, the look in Chloe's eyes grew even more conflicted. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "I'm not lying to you. I will marry you, just not right now." She had to admit she was hesitating. The day her friend told her to end it, she had fully intended to break up with me. But then she'd come home and found me asleep at my laptop, and she couldn't bring herself to do it. She told herself she'd do it tomorrow. But one tomorrow became the next and the next. until she was suddenly terrified by the thought of what her life would be like if I wasn't in it. But in her world, marriage was about alliances and status, and Julian was, without a doubt, the most suitable match. That's why she never talked about marriage with me. She thought if she never gave me hope, I wouldn't be disappointed when she eventually left. Julian sneered. Chloe, did you really think I didn't know he existed? Chloe sighed. But Julian, don't forget, you were the one who told me to find a placeholder in the first place. The memory only made him angrier. I was joking. I never thought you'd actually do it. And even if you did, I'm back now. You need to cut him off. Completely. Chloe felt lost. She knew she had to break up with me, but the words just wouldn't come out. Julian pulled her into an embrace. Chloe, we grew up together. No one knows you like I do, and no one is a better match for you. That man is just a fleeting distraction. I'm the one who will be by your side in the end. Chloe didn't argue. Julian pressed his advantage. Chloe, you know people from different worlds can't last. If it's too much trouble for you, I can take care of him for you. Chloe looked down and sighed. Just give me 3 days. I'll break up with him myself. That seemed to satisfy Julian, and he agreed to give her 3 days to say her goodbyes. Chloe rode the dirt bike back into town and ran into my brother, Kyle, at the entrance. He was completely wasted and only seemed to register her presence when she parked the bike right in front of him. Where's your brother? She asked. She hadn't been able to reach my phone and assumed I was with my family. Kyle rubbed his eyes. My brother? Didn't you leave him stranded out there? He called and asked me to pick him up, but I figured he must have done something to piss you off, so I left him there to teach him a lesson. He won't make you mad again. Hearing his fawning tone, Chloe's stomach dropped. Your brother called you for a ride, and you just didn't go? Where is he now? Her eyes turned icy. If he hadn't been my brother, she would have screamed at him. He's probably back at the house by now, Kyle slurred, trying to climb on the back of the bike for a ride. Instead, Chloe revved the engine and sped away, leaving him in the dust. Chloe couldn't explain the heavy, tight feeling in her chest, but a terrible premonition urged her to find me. As she pushed open the door to my parents' house, she overheard them talking, their backs turned to her. My father took a drag from his cigarette. If she hadn't shown up in that fancy car today, I'd still think that boy was playing us for fools. Always saying he's broke when I ask for money, putting off marriage. I figured he was spending it all on some other girl. What's the rush? My mother replied. Our Ethan went to college. If this girl doesn't work out, he'll find someone else. You know the mayor's daughter has a crush on him. Her family won't ask for a thing, and they'll even give him enough money for a house and a car in the city. That's not a bad deal. But this new girl is obviously a better catch, my father mused. Didn't Ethan say he was coming home to talk about marriage? I wonder how much her family is willing to offer. A deathly silence fell over Chloe. She realized that if it weren't for me, she would never have encountered people like this. They spoke of their son not as a person, but as a product to be sold. If she broke up with me, would they immediately force me to marry someone else? A wave of anxiety washed over her, and her palms began to sweat. Just then, my parents turned around and saw her standing there. Their faces lit up, and they rushed over, calling her their dear daughter-in-law. Chloe suddenly remembered how they had barely even looked at me when we first arrived. After 7 years together, she was finally seeing the world I came from. She understood now that I'd worked all through college not for the experience, but because I was desperately poor. I didn't go to grad school. I took the first high-commission sales job I could find, a job where I drank so much with clients I nearly gave myself an ulcer. I didn't skip meals because I was a perfectionist dedicated to my work. I did it to save money. And for 7 years, she had naively believed I was driven by ambition. She never imagined I had a family of leeches sucking me dry. And in all that time, she had never offered me a single dollar. He was supporting 2 households. How exhausted he must have been. Her love for me deepened into a profound ache. My parents brought up the wedding again, smoothly transitioning to the topic of money. Daughter-in-law, we raised Ethan, sent him to college. Now his brother Kyle needs to get married, and we don't have the money to build him a house. You two are successful, you can make it in the city, but Kyle, he has to stay here. So, we were thinking, maybe you could help us out with a generous wedding gift? We wouldn't even ask for anything for ourselves. Think of it as Ethan joining your family. We don't even care whose last name the kids have. Chloe frowned and shook her head. I'm not going to marry him, but I will give you money, on the condition that you promise to leave Ethan alone. My father's eyes widened. You'll really give us money? Chloe's face was grim. Yes, but you have to promise that for the next 10 years, you won't pressure him to marry anyone, and you won't force him to do anything against his will. Seeing the look on their faces, she added, we'll sign a contract. It would be her final parting gift to me. Even if they never spoke again, she couldn't bear the thought of this family dragging me down forever. After the contract was signed and the money transferred, she realized with a jolt that I still wasn't back. In that moment, it felt as if her heart had been hollowed out. Enough time had passed that even if I had walked the whole way, I should have been back by now. Where was I? When my father heard I was missing, his first reaction wasn't concern, but anger. That damn kid can't even get through Christmas without causing trouble. Does he expect us to go out looking for him in the middle of the night? My mother, noticing the look on Chloe's face, quickly tried to smooth things over. Dear, don't you worry about him. You've just spoiled him a little, that's all. With men, you have to play hard to get. The more you ignore him, the more he'll come running back. Chloe couldn't stand it anymore. She shook their hands off, got back on the dirt bike, and sped to the edge of town. My disappearance, here in my own hometown, filled her with a dreadful certainty that I was leaving her for good. It felt like her heart was being scooped out, like something precious was slipping through her fingers, and a cold dread washed over her. A group of kids setting off firecrackers at the edge of town stared at the beautiful stranger. Chloe pulled out her wallet and held out a wad of cash. Has anyone seen a man named Ethan? There's a reward for anyone who can tell me where he went. The money worked. A young boy spoke up. I saw him. He got on the bus that goes to the city. He's probably halfway to Chicago by now. On a bus? To Chicago? The words echoed in her mind. She gave the boy the money. Where's the bus stop? She asked. Right over there, the boy said, pointing. But that was the last bus for 3 days because of the holiday. The next one isn't until after Christmas. Chloe couldn't understand why I would leave like that. Was it because she'd abandoned me on that hill? I'm not waiting 3 days, she muttered to herself. I'm driving back right now. Ignoring my parents' protests, Chloe was determined to drive back to the city in the middle of the night. Normally, she wouldn't have been this worried about not being able to reach me, but hearing that I had left without a word, on a bus, that lurking fear inside her grew into a full-blown panic. She sped the entire way, arriving back in Chicago just before dawn. But when she opened the door to our apartment, our cozy little home, she found it spotlessly clean, as empty as the day we first moved in. As she walked through the rooms, she realized that every trace of me, every photo, every memory was gone. She searched the entire apartment but found nothing. A knot of dread tightened in her stomach. She was even more shocked when the landlord knocked on the door. Are you and Ethan finally buying a place of your own? Congratulations. He's a good man, that one. Make sure you invite me to the wedding. That's how she found out I had terminated the lease. Exhausted from the sleepless night and the long drive, her mind felt sluggish. If I wasn't living here, where was I? When Chloe told the landlord she knew nothing about it, he fell silent. Staring at the new, for rent, sign on the door, Chloe felt a clawing anxiety in her chest. This apartment held 7 years of her life with me. The thought of me with someone else, living with them, loving them, it was suffocating. So right then and there, she bought the apartment. Then, she rushed straight to my office building. Seeing the locked doors, she remembered it was Christmas Day. The office was closed, so I hadn't come back to the city for work. Why then? My phone still went straight to voicemail. In desperation, she called my boss, Sarah. Unfortunately, Sarah's kid was playing with her phone, watching TikTok videos, and kept hanging up on the unknown number until he finally just blocked it. Chloe threw her phone down in a rage. She sat on the edge of a planter on the sidewalk, trying to think of where I could have gone. In her panic, she made a call, activating the Vanderbilt family's vast security network across Chicago, determined to find me. She knew that in doing so, her family would discover everything. Her 7 years of pretending to be poor, and the middle-class boyfriend she'd been hiding. She had never even considered introducing me to her parents. She knew her mother would tear my background to shreds. There was a chasm of class between us that could never be bridged. But she had no idea that I was already on a plane to Los Angeles. Her citywide search quickly yielded a result. My last known location in Chicago was O'Hare International Airport. Panic seized her. I had always told her everything, but this time, I had vanished without a trace. Her hands were shaking so badly on the steering wheel that she couldn't drive. She just sat there, her heart hammering in her chest. Then, her mother called, reminding her that in 3 days, she and Julian were to have their official engagement party at the city's most exclusive hotel. The engagement party was the last thing on her mind. A moment later, her phone rang again. It was Sarah, my old boss, returning her call. Ethan resigned a while back, Sarah told her. He said he was moving abroad to go back to school. Probably won't be back for at least 3 to 5 years. Hearing that I had quit my job weeks ago, Chloe's mind flashed back to the image of me packing things up in our apartment. She opened our iMessage conversation and saw that every message she'd sent had failed to deliver. A notification confirmed it. She had been blocked. So, this wasn't her leaving me. This was me leaving her. But why? Was it because she wouldn't marry me? Or had I found out the truth? A cold sweat drenched her back. Her face went deathly pale, and tears began to stream down her cheeks. She stormed into the airport terminal, but before she could get to the ticket counter, her family's security guards appeared and escorted her home. Once her mother learned I had left the country, all her worries vanished. She had Chloe confined to her room, ordered the engagement party to proceed as planned, and locked Chloe's passport in the family safe. Chloe acted like a woman possessed, clinging to the safe, refusing to let go. She kept trying passwords, getting an electric shock with each failed attempt, but she didn't care. What has that boy done to you? Her mother demanded, her teeth clenched. Why are you doing this for him? Kneeling on the floor, Chloe shook her head, tears of guilt in her eyes. It's not his fault. It's mine. I'm the one who let him down. She discovered I had deleted all my social media accounts, except for one last post on a private blog we used to share. It read, "A bird and a fish can fall in love, but where would they live? Goodbye forever." She finally understood. I had known all along. I knew who she was, and I knew why she had approached me. She had promised she would never lie to me. She had broken that promise. And as a punishment, I had vanished completely from her life. She was consumed by regret, sobbing uncontrollably. Even if a bird and a fish weren't meant to be, she would cross oceans to find me. Julian had assumed that in 3 days, Chloe would come to her senses and return to him. He never imagined that at their engagement party, in front of the national press, Chloe would publicly declare her love for another man. Chloe fell to her knees right there on the stage, begging into the cameras, pleading with me to give her another chance. Her voice was raw with anguish as she declared that she would give up everything, her fortune, her status, just to live a simple life with me. Her mother was so enraged she fainted. Julian was furious. After all these years, to be cast aside for someone else? For him, a sterling, to lose to some kid from the middle of nowhere? Julian grabbed onto Chloe, as if afraid she'd run off that very second. "Chloe, don't be a fool. He doesn't love you, he loves your money. If you marry him, you'll be the laughingstock of New York." "I don't care," she snapped, her expression turning to ice. She ripped her arm from his grasp, her eyes like daggers. "Julian, don't think for a second I don't know what you've been doing behind my back. I've been lenient with you for the sake of our history. But I will not leave Ethan, and I will not lose him. He's the only one I will ever love. If you ever try to hurt him again, you'll have to deal with me." Julian could only watch her leave, seething with rage. The video of Chloe's public plea went viral overnight. While the world praised her devotion, her mother, from her hospital bed, took drastic action. She cut Chloe off completely, freezing her accounts and removing her from her position at the family company. She would see how far Chloe could get without the Vanderbilt name and fortune. Chloe tried calling her friends for a loan, but her so-called best friends, upon hearing she'd been disowned and was broke, quickly hung up on her, pretending they barely knew her. Unable to borrow money and unwilling to go home, she moved back into our old apartment alone. She worked odd jobs, saving every penny, living on ramen and tap water. She was doing it all for one reason, to save enough money for a plane ticket to Los Angeles. 3 months later, she finally had it. As she was about to walk through the boarding gate, Julian appeared out of nowhere, grabbing her arm, his face streaked with tears. "Chloe, you have to come to the hospital. It's your mother. She's dying." The sudden news forced her to abandon her flight. She crumpled the ticket in her fist, the hope that had been shining in her eyes just moments before completely extinguished. When she rushed into the ICU, she realized it was all a lie. Julian and her mother had set her up. They planned to use hypnotherapy to erase all her memories of me. But Chloe fought back. To hold onto her memories, she banged her head against the wall until it bled, bit her own lip raw, and even stabbed her own leg with a shard of glass, doing anything to keep from forgetting me. She managed to break free and crawl out of the room, just in time to overhear Julian on the phone in the hallway. He was telling a friend in Los Angeles to find me and arrange an accident that would kill me. That way, Chloe would finally give up and marry him. When he hung up and turned around, he saw her standing right behind him. Before he could say a word, she lunged at him, biting his arm and ramming her head into his chest, sending him staggering back against the railing at the end of the hall. The railing, which had just been repaired, wasn't secure. It gave way instantly, and Julian plunged 3 stories to the ground below. He survived the fall, but the bones in his hands were shattered. He would never play the piano again. For her part in it, Chloe was sentenced to 3 years in prison for aggravated assault. Mrs. Vanderbilt was devastated, but Chloe was her only child. The scandal sent the Vanderbilt Corporation's stock into a nosedive, pushing the company to the brink of bankruptcy. Desperate to raise funds, Mrs. Vanderbilt traced Chloe's financial records and found the $1 million payment to my family. She showed up at their door with a team of lawyers, demanding the money back, just as my parents were celebrating their newfound wealth. My parents refused, so Mrs. Vanderbilt sued them. Being practically illiterate, they had no idea how to hire a lawyer, so they tried to call their son in the city for help. But I had completely disappeared. They went to the police to file a missing persons report, but when the police checked the records, they found my name wasn't legally registered as their son. My mother then remembered that years ago, she had found the paperwork too troublesome and had only ever officially registered Kyle, never me. All my school and living expenses had been paid for by my adoptive father, Mr. Davis. But more than half of that money had gone straight into my parents' pockets, forcing me to work part-time jobs just to cover my tuition. Without any legal proof of kinship, the police couldn't help them. In the end, my parents lost the lawsuit. They were ordered to repay the $1 million and were also sentenced to several years in prison for extortion. The scandal spread through their small town, and no one would have anything to do with Kyle. He fell into a deep depression, drinking himself into a stupor every night. One night, stumbling home drunk and alone, he fell into a muddy ditch by the side of the road. The ditch was shallow, but he was too intoxicated to pull himself out, and he drowned. By the time someone found him the next morning, his body was cold. 3 years later, it was Christmas again. I finished my final exams early, giving myself a 3-month break. Mr. Davis decided it was time for us, me and his biological son Alex, to go back to the States for the holidays. For the past 3 years, I had been living with Mr. Davis and my adoptive brother, Alex, and it had been the happiest time of my life. Mr. Davis treated me like his own son, and Alex was the best brother I could have asked for, always looking out for me, buying me clothes, and sharing his new video games. For our trip back, Mr. Davis had made some arrangements. He told me he'd set up introductions for both me and Alex with some nice young women. I wasn't particularly interested in marriage anymore, but I agreed to it to make him happy. It turned out he had arranged for us to meet a pair of sisters. The older sister, Stella, was the CEO of the Heiress Corporation, a major publicly traded company in Chicago. The younger sister, Luna, had built her own media empire from the ground up, without any help from her family. Alex and Stella hit it off immediately. They talked for hours and were clearly smitten with each other. My meeting with Luna, however, had to be postponed for a few days because of an unexpected business trip on her end. We finally met on Christmas Eve. Stella brought her sister Luna over to my father's house with gifts. The moment my eyes met Luna's, I was hit with a wave of memories from middle school and high school. For 6 years, all through middle and high school, I had sat next to the prettiest girl in our class. She was beautiful, but her grades weren't great, so the teachers always sat me next to her to help her study. For those 6 years, she was practically the only person I ever talked to. We lost touch after graduation. I never in a million years expected to see her again like this. Luna was exactly as I remembered her, chatty and warm. It had been 12 years, but the way she talked to me, it felt like no time had passed at all. I felt a little awkward at first, until she broke the ice by complaining about how strict I used to be as her tutor, forcing her to do extra homework and memorize vocabulary lists. She even remembered how I made her write out every wrong answer on her failed tests and correct them. I was so embarrassed that she remembered all that in such detail. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Her sister Stella laughed. If it weren't for him, you probably wouldn't have even made it through high school, let alone gotten to sit next to him all those years. Luna told her sister to be quiet, which only encouraged her. Let me tell you something, Ethan, Stella said, leaning in conspiratorially. My little sister here has had a crush on a certain someone since middle school. For 12 years. She had plenty of chances to tell him, but she always chickened out. In fact, this whole setup was her idea. So what do you say? Are you interested in a wife who's practically delivering herself to your doorstep? With everyone teasing her, Luna finally confessed. She'd lost touch with me after a serious climbing accident left her in a coma for several months. The first thing she did when she recovered was fly back to find me and tell me how she felt. But by then, I was already with Chloe. So she just kept her distance and wished me well. 3 years ago, when she heard Chloe and I had broken up, she started trying to find a way to see me again. But something always came up, and we kept missing each other. This time, she figured, by tagging along with her sister, even if her own date didn't work out, at least we'd be connected through family. She was determined to get her happy ending one way or another. I laughed at her silly scheming, telling her she should have just called me. But then she got nervous. Ethan, she said, are you going to hold the fact that my family has money against me? Will you not even give me a chance? I was taken aback. Why would you think that? She looked down at her hands. Well, I heard you broke up with your ex-girlfriend because she was too rich. Are you very rich? I asked, smiling. Luna winced. I guess you could say that. Her hesitant reply made me laugh out loud. Look, it wasn't about the money. Don't worry about it. I admit Chloe's family was wealthy, but I never wanted her money. I wanted her honesty. She lied to me for 7 years, making me the butt of a joke that everyone else was in on. I didn't waste 7 years of my life for some kind of payout. I sold all those watches she gave me. The money was enough to open my own small design studio in LA. The studio is doing well now. I've moved on. Luna, though, was a completely unexpected surprise. With her sister's encouragement, I agreed to give things a try with her. I couldn't promise how it would end, but I made one thing clear. I hate being lied to. If she ever deceived me, we would be over for good. Luna swore up and down she would never hide anything from me. From that day on, my phone was constantly flooded with messages from her. It was like she had a running commentary on her life, telling me everything from how much sugar she put in her coffee to sending me pictures of everyone in her business meetings for my approval. Valentine's Day was approaching, and Luna was in the middle of booking a restaurant when I got a call from an old college friend inviting me to a reunion. In the past, I'd always skipped them, either because I was working or trying to save money. But my 3 years in LA had taught me to relax a little and be more social. I told him I'd be there. He then asked, a little hesitantly, if I was seeing anyone. I could hear someone whispering in the background. My voice was steady. I am. He was clearly surprised by my directness and gave an awkward laugh. Well then, you should bring her with you. We're all dying to see if she's as impressive as your last one. I didn't want people comparing Luna and Chloe, even though they were both wealthy. The reunion was being held at a luxury hotel in downtown Chicago. I'd only recently heard what had happened after I left. The Vanderbilt Corporation had nearly collapsed. Chloe, from prison, had agreed to marry Julian and take care of him for the rest of his life in exchange for an early release. She then single-handedly saved her family's company from ruin. As for their marriage, she had filed for divorce 6 months ago, citing that Julian had suffered a mental breakdown and become a danger to her family. She had him committed to a psychiatric hospital. So, I knew there was a good chance I would see Chloe at the reunion. I was prepared for it. Luna was on my arm, looking stunning in a custom-made gown. As we walked into the hotel ballroom, all eyes turned to us. A few people recognized Luna and immediately came over to schmooze. I excused myself to use the restroom. On my way back, a slender figure stepped into my path. I looked up into the tired but unmistakably thrilled eyes of Chloe Vanderbilt. "Excuse me," I said. "Ethan, you finally came back to see me," she exclaimed, moving to hug me. I sidestepped her. I kept my distance, my voice cool. "Miss, have we met?" She seemed to think I was just holding a grudge. She softened her voice. "Ethan, it's been 3 years. I thought about you every single day. If it hadn't been for Julian, we could have been married by now." I let out a short, bitter laugh at the word married. I knew perfectly well that even without Julian in the picture, she never would have married me. The only reason she was so fixated on me now was because I was the one who left without giving her a chance to say goodbye. It was her ego, not her heart, that was bruised. When I didn't respond, she continued her confession. "Ethan, you were the only one I ever truly loved. I was so stupid back then. I didn't know how to love you, and I broke your heart. Please just give me one more chance. I swear I will never hurt you again." Before I could answer, she pulled a wedding ring from her pocket and tried to slide it onto my finger. At that moment, another figure swiftly moved between us. I instinctively took Luna's hand as I heard her say, in a warning tone, "Ms. Vanderbilt, are you trying to poach my fiancé?" Chloe's gaze dropped to our intertwined hands, and her eyes instantly reddened. "You too." Luna smiled brightly. "This is my fiancé, Ethan. If you're free, Ms. Vanderbilt, you should come to our wedding." Chloe's eyes narrowed, her gaze fixed on me. "This is your new girlfriend?" I looked at Luna's profile and nodded without a second's hesitation. Later that evening, people coaxed us into having the first dance. Once everyone realized who Luna was, Chloe was all but forgotten. Some of my old classmates, who didn't know the whole story, kept saying how lucky I was to have dated a Vanderbilt and now be marrying a Hayes. I overheard one of Chloe's old friends talking. "So that's the guy she pretended to be poor for all those years. He is handsome, I'll give him that. No wonder she's still hung up on him. You know, if she had just married him back then, things might have turned out better for her." Unfortunately for her, Luna overheard. Furious that they were gossiping about my past so openly, she had security escort them out. The next morning, the headlines announced that their family businesses had all filed for bankruptcy. I tried to tell Luna she didn't have to do that, but she insisted that people like that were toxic and better off removed from the business world entirely. I was touched by how fiercely she defended me. Soon after, Luna had to leave for a short business trip. We had seen each other nearly every day since we started dating, and the thought of being apart for 3 days made her so sad she clung to me and complained for an hour. But it was an important international conference she couldn't miss. After I dropped Luna off at the airport, Chloe's car cut me off on the drive home. She forced me into her car and, to my shock, drove me to the largest and most exclusive wedding photography studio in the city. She had her assistant wheel out a rack of tuxedos. She told me she had designed each one herself. The jewels adorning them were even more extravagant than the ones on the watches she'd given me. Then, she knelt on the floor and proposed. "Ethan, I know I was immature and I hurt you, but please, give me a chance to make it right. I truly want to spend the rest of my life with you." 3 years ago, her words might have moved me, but it was too little, too late. My face was a mask of stone. "Chloe, if you don't stop harassing me, I will call the police." Her assistant chimed in. "Mr. Reed, she really is devoted to you. For the past 3 years, she's done nothing but think about you. She's bought you countless gifts, the best of everything in Chicago. Please, just forgive her." I sighed. "Chloe, you can't put the pieces of a broken mirror back together. What we had ended 3 years ago by both our hands. No matter what you do now, I'm not coming back. You need to let go." "I won't," she said, her voice stubborn. On Valentine's Day, she staged a massive fireworks display over the city, a grand public proposal. All day, the giant screens in the city's busiest intersections played a slideshow of our old photos. The story went viral online, with people gushing about how romantic it was. I saw the videos. I watched the fireworks from my apartment window. And then I called the police and reported an illegal fireworks display in a restricted zone. The show was shut down. I was just starting to relax when there was a knock at my door. My father and Alex were out visiting relatives, so I was home alone. My first thought was that it was Chloe. I was about to call security when I heard a familiar voice. "Ethan, it's me. I'm back." It was Luna. She'd only been gone 2 days. She dropped her suitcase in the entryway, stood on her toes, and kissed me hard. I asked her why she was back so soon. She mumbled against my lips, "If I didn't come back, what if you changed your mind about us? That woman is obsessed with you." "Don't worry, I already called Stella. She's gonna make things a little difficult for the Vanderbilts. Chloe should be too busy to bother you for a while." I couldn't believe she had flown back just because of Chloe. To reassure her, I decided to fly back with her for the rest of her trip. We could attend her conference and then spend a few days sightseeing. The next few days were just as Luna predicted. Chloe was too busy to bother me. The Vanderbilt Corporation lost a billion-dollar deal due to a critical error by their senior management. On the surface, the family still looked as powerful as ever, but their empire was crumbling from within. Just as Chloe managed to stop the bleeding, the Hayes family announced my engagement to Luna. The media went into a frenzy. The party was to be held at the private Hayes family estate, a place normally closed to the public. The normally private family sent invitations to everyone in their industry, including their international partners. It was a massive event. The Hayes family made it clear that this son-in-law was very important to them, so no one dared to cause any trouble. I thought the party would go off without a hitch. That is, until two elderly figures snuck into the mansion. My biological father, Mr. Miller, walked right up to me and collapsed. My mother immediately sat down on the floor and started wailing. "My ungrateful son," my father cried. "You live in luxury while your poor old parents who raised you are forgotten. We lost everything for you. Now we're homeless, sleeping on the streets. Are you going to let us die in a gutter?" My mother sobbed, wiping away fake tears. "Ethan, we don't want to be a burden, but your poor brother is gone. We only have you left. If you don't take care of us, who will? You're supposed to take care of your parents in their old age," my father added. "But our son has abandoned us." My face hardened. I was not going to deal with this now. I motioned for security to remove them, but Luna stepped forward. "Mr. Miller," she began, "let me introduce myself. I was Ethan's deskmate for 6 years, from middle school through high school. In all that time, at every parent-teacher conference, Ethan was the only student sitting there alone. So I have to ask, where were you? You claim you worked so hard to raise him, so why did he have to work in the school cafeteria just to pay his fees? Why did he use other students' discarded workbooks? Why did he spend every holiday alone at school instead of coming home? In 6 years, I never once saw either of you visit him. Is that what you call raising a child?" My father's face flushed as Luna systematically dismantled his lies. He stammered, "Well, that's because our son is independent. He didn't need us, and we had his brother to think about. His brother needed things too. Is that right?" Luna shot back. "Because as I recall, his brother dropped out of school in the 5th grade to play video games all day. And nearly half the money Ethan's adoptive father sent you every year went to your younger son's in-game purchases." My father's face was turning purple, but Luna wasn't finished. "And don't you think it's cruel to call a child independent when he's just a minor with no way to support himself? You had him, but you didn't raise him. You treated him like a retirement plan. Do you even deserve to be called parents?" My mother started sobbing again. "What do you know? He's my son. I love him. You're just trying to turn him against us so you can have him all to yourself. You're not taking my son from me." A smirk played on Luna's lips. "I've already signed over 23% of my shares in the Hayes Corporation to my husband as a wedding gift. The deed to our new house is in his name as well." My mother's eyes lit up. Luna continued, her voice like ice. "But all of that is his personal property. If you try to take any of it, you'll find yourself back in prison." My parents looked like they'd swallowed poison. They were completely outmatched. Finally, they turned and saw Chloe, who had just arrived, and shot her a desperate, pleading look. Chloe came forward and helped my parents to their feet. She looked at me, her expression one of noble magnanimity. "Ethan, your parents know they were wrong. You're all they have left. If you marry me, I'll take care of them. I promise. I'll make sure neither you nor your family ever wants for anything." I laughed coldly. "Miss Vanderbilt, isn't this a little outside your business?" Seeing their ally, my parents straightened up. "Ethan, this girl has clearly tricked you. So what if she has money? She probably won't let you touch a cent of it. She won't even take care of your own parents. How can she compare to Chloe? Chloe is the perfect daughter-in-law. We know her. She's devoted to you, and she's willing to give us $50 million. You'll never get a better offer. Choose Chloe." Luna's expression darkened, her gaze fixed on Chloe. "Chloe Vanderbilt, it seems you still haven't learned the first thing about love. If you truly loved him, you would never have paraded his deepest wounds in front of all these people. You started your relationship with a lie so you could have an easy exit, never once considering you might regret losing him. Well, there are no do-overs in life. Even now, using his parents to blackmail him won't make him love you again." "Well said." A new voice cut through the tension. My adoptive father, Mr. Davis, strode into the room, looking powerful and imposing in a sharp suit. The press in the room went wild, cameras flashing. The news of the legendary tycoon's return to Chicago would be on every headline within minutes. Mr. Davis turned his steely gaze on my biological parents. "When we discovered the switch, I offered to raise both boys. You demanded $1 million. I agreed. Then you got greedy and decided to take your biological son back, knowing that I would continue to send you money for his well-being. Money that never went to Ethan. You used it to raise your other son, and you treated my son like a cash machine, a product to be sold. How dare you call yourselves his parents?" "Dad," I said, my voice thick with emotion. He turned and put a hand on my shoulder, then faced the cameras. He announced that he was my only legal father, and that, as far as he was concerned, my biological father was dead. My father clutched his chest, tears streaming down his face as security guards moved in. "Ethan, I was wrong," he cried as they dragged him away. "I don't want the money. I want my son. You're all I have left. If you abandon me, who will take care of me when I'm old?" "That's not my problem," I said, my voice cold. I wanted nothing more to do with them. The day I left, 3 years ago, I had transferred every penny I had ever saved into his bank account. It was more than enough to repay them for bringing me into this world. I hadn't looked back since. My mother was also crying, trying to appeal to me, but it was too late. At a signal from my adoptive father, the police escorted them both away. I didn't follow up on what happened to them. The next time I heard their names, it was from a funeral home. I scattered their ashes on a hill overlooking the town. Kyle's grave was overgrown with weeds, but I left it as it was. After that, I left that town for good and never went back. Chloe, for her part in orchestrating the scene, was also taken in for questioning and detained for a week. After the engagement party, Mr. Davis wanted me and Alex to return to LA with him. As it happened, Luna was planning to open a new branch of her company there, so we all decided to go together. After the incident with my parents, I had no desire to return to Chicago anytime soon, and Luna was happy to relocate. We were all on our way to the airport when a beat-up old van suddenly shot out of a side road, speeding directly towards us, completely out of control. Before I could even process what was happening, I saw a black sedan swerve in front of us, taking the full impact of the van. It was Chloe's car. I recognized the license plate. Chloe clutched at her chest, where shards of the windshield were embedded, and forced her door open. She stumbled out of the wreck, her face a mask of blood, and tried to walk towards me. Luna rushed forward to catch her before she collapsed. I called 911. When the ambulance arrived, Luna and I helped the paramedics get Chloe inside. The paramedics had to use the jaws of life to extract the driver of the van. When they finally pulled him free, I saw his face, and my blood ran cold. It was Julian Sterling, but he looked haggard and aged, a shadow of his former self. He was covered in cuts, but he was still alive. After more than 20 hours in surgery, both he and Chloe were declared stable. I had to stay behind. I knew I owed Chloe my life. If she hadn't intervened, that van would have hit our car, and the outcome would have been far worse. Luna didn't object, and she stayed with me to help look after Chloe. Although Chloe was stable, she was still in a coma. The doctors told us to prepare for the worst. If she didn't wake up within a week, she might never wake up at all. Luna told me not to worry about the medical bills. Her family would take care of everything. But I just wanted Chloe to wake up. I didn't want to live the rest of my life indebted to her. The Hayes family flew in the best medical team in the world. The police came to question me as well. They told me that the psychiatric hospital had reported Julian missing that morning. He'd stolen a maintenance van from their parking lot. I also learned that Julian hadn't been mentally ill when he was committed. Chloe had forged his medical records and had him locked away simply because he refused to grant her a divorce. During his 6 months in the hospital, the real mental torture he endured there had taken its toll. He was plagued by nightmares, and over time his mind began to break. He became obsessed, constantly cursing one name, mine. His therapist said that Julian had convinced himself that I was the sole reason Chloe had left him. His resentment shifted from her to me. He believed that if he could just kill me, everything would go back to the way it was. When Julian woke up, he was apparently furious that his perfect plan had failed. The police have him under guard. As soon as he's discharged, he'll be going to prison. To try and bring Chloe out of her coma, I sat by her bedside for hours every day, talking to her, telling her stories from our past, hoping something would get through to her. "Chloe, do you remember the first time we met? It was at the freshman orientation dance. I couldn't afford a nice shirt, so I just wore my gym clothes. Everyone laughed at me, but you asked me to dance. You talked to me all night. When I told you I didn't drink, you got me a juice. When I said the hall was stuffy, you snuck me out the back door. We walked across the football field, under the stars, and you asked me what I wanted to do with my life. I told you I just wanted to make a lot of money. The very next day, you got me that part-time job at the library. You know, back then, you were like a star to me. You were my hope for the future." I saw her eyelashes flutter, so I kept talking. "Chloe, I really did want to build a life with you. I used to imagine us having a daughter, and giving her all the things we never had as kids. I used to dream about what kind of husband and father I would be, how I would make you both happy. I really, truly wanted to marry you." Her fingers twitched. Across the room, Luna sat quietly on the sofa, peeling an apple. She sliced it into pieces, arranged them on a plate, and silently brought them over to me. I hadn't wanted her to be here for this, but she insisted she needed to catch up on the years she'd missed. I couldn't argue with her, so I let her stay. I finished the apple slices and finally told her the real reason I left. "Chloe, that night you were at that fancy hotel with your friends, I was in the suite next door. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but then I stepped outside and heard you talking to your friend. When I got home, I looked you up. It was all there. All the articles, the interviews, the photos. And I had been the fool who thought you were some down-on-her-luck girl, and I was the lucky one. I knew you were planning to leave me for Julian. So I decided to leave you first. You started it and I ended it. That seems fair enough. I thought I would never see you again, that you would go back to your world, and I would stay in mine. I never imagined that after I was gone, you would say that I was the one you loved all along. It was like something out of a soap opera. But I'm not that person anymore. You can't restart a heart that's already stopped beating. Luna noticed a tear slide from the corner of Chloe's eye and suggested I go get some coffee. After I left the room, Luna stood over the bed and said coolly, "You can stop pretending now that he's gone, unless you actually want to lie here for the rest of your life." Chloe knew the act was up. She slowly opened her eyes. When her gaze met Luna's, she was surprised to find that much of the hostility was gone. Luna's voice was soft. "It's not a crime to love someone, Chloe, but you can't build a relationship on lies. If you had been honest with him from the start, maybe I would be the only one with regrets right now." Luna was still a little bitter. After all, if it hadn't been for Chloe, she and I would have been the high school sweethearts everyone envied. Chloe had swooped in and won, but she hadn't appreciated what she had. So she shouldn't be surprised that the original contender had come back to claim the prize. Chloe understood, but she couldn't